She was young, luminous, and in love, a rising star at the heart of Hollywood's golden age. But on the night of August 8th, 1969, Sharon Tate's fairy tale ended in horror. 8 months pregnant, she was found murdered in her Los Angeles home, alongside 4 others, her friends, her unborn child, her future. The killers? Members of a so-called family led by a failed musician and self-proclaimed prophet, Charles Manson. It was a crime that shocked the world, brutal, senseless, ritualistic. But what most people don't know is that Sharon's death wasn't just a random act of violence. It was a message, one written in blood, aimed at Hollywood itself. In that single night, everything changed. The innocence of the 1,960 seconds died with her. The dream of peace, beauty, and youth was replaced by fear, paranoia, and darkness. Hollywood, once the land of light, suddenly realized that even its brightest stars could bleed. Sharon Tate wasn't just a victim. She was the symbol of everything that made her era glitter and everything that made it dangerous. Her beauty opened doors, her kindness disarmed people, and her fame made her a target in a city where adoration and obsession are separated by a single heartbeat. They said her killers were part of a cult. But the truth is, Hollywood itself had become one worshipping fame, feeding madness, and sacrificing innocence. Everyone remembers the murder, but few remember the woman. And the truth about what happened to Sharon Tate is darker than the headlines ever dared to tell. To understand the tragedy of Sharon Tate, you have to understand the world that created her. Los Angeles in the 1,960 seconds, when the line between art and illusion, love and danger, was disappearing. It was the era of the Beatles, Woodstock, and free love. Hollywood was changing, old studios were fading, and young stars were rebelling against the system. The world wanted something new, raw, and beautiful, and no one embodied that promise better than Sharon Tate. Born in 1,943 inches, Dallas, Texas, Sharon grew up as the daughter of a U.S. Army officer. The family moved constantly: Italy, Washington, Texas again, and Sharon learned early how to charm people wherever she went. She was shy, soft-spoken, almost ethereal, but when she smiled, rooms shifted. Her beauty wasn't loud, it was haunting. Even strangers stopped to stare. At 16, while her father was stationed in Verona, she began winning beauty pageants. Italian filmmakers noticed her immediately. One day on set, she caught the eye of actor Richard Beymer, who told his director, "That girl is going to be a star." When the Tates returned to America, Sharon followed the dream that everyone else saw in her. She moved to Los Angeles, took acting classes, and worked as an extra, anonymous but unforgettable. By 1964, she was signed to Marty Ransohoff, one of Hollywood's most powerful producers. He groomed her career like a sculptor shaping marble, changing her look, her voice, even her name. She was no longer just Sharon, she was Sharon Tate, the next big thing. Her breakthrough came in Valley of the Dolls 1967, a film that captured both the glamour and the emptiness of fame. Critics were cruel. They called her too beautiful to act. But audiences didn't care. Sharon's performance was raw, vulnerable, and strangely prophetic, a young woman destroyed by the very system that made her. Behind the fame, she was gentle, grounded, and deeply loved. She met Polish director Roman Polanski on the set of The Fearless Vampire Killers. He was eccentric, brilliant, and unpredictable, everything she wasn't. They fell in love instantly. In 1968, they married in London, becoming the it couple of the counterculture era. They were the embodiment of 1,960 seconds, glamour, two artists who believed in freedom, beauty, and love. Their home in Los Angeles became a haven for actors, musicians, and dreamers. But beneath the music and the parties, something darker was stirring in California. The optimism of the decade was decaying. Protests turned violent. Psychedelic dreams soured into paranoia. And somewhere in the desert outside Los Angeles, a failed musician named Charles Manson was preaching to his family young followers who believed he was the new Jesus Christ. They lived in an abandoned movie set, took LSD, and listened to the Beatles on repeat. Manson claimed the songs were coded messages about an upcoming race war, one he called Helter Skelter. He told his followers they were chosen to survive it. By 1969, Sharon Tate was 8 months pregnant, radiant, excited, ready to start a new chapter. She told friends she'd never been happier, but happiness in Hollywood has always been fragile. The city of dreams was about to turn into a nightmare. On the night of August 8th, Roman Polanski was in London working on a script. Sharon stayed home, surrounded by friends, a quiet evening in the Hollywood Hills. They had no idea that their home, once a symbol of love and creativity, had already been marked for death. The summer of 1969 was supposed to be the season of love. But in Los Angeles, that love was beginning to rot. The city glittered under the California sun, but something malignant was crawling beneath the surface: drugs, disillusionment, and a growing fascination with darkness. At 10050 Cielo Drive, Sharon Tate was living the dream. The house, a modern hideaway tucked into the Hollywood Hills, had become a sanctuary for her and Roman Polanski. It was filled with laughter, late-night dinners, and the kind of warmth that only comes from people who believe the world is still good. Sharon was 8 months pregnant, glowing, waiting for Roman to return from London. That night, August 8th, 1969, she invited a few friends over for dinner. Hairstylist Jay Sebring, a former boyfriend who remained her closest friend, coffee heiress Abigail Folger, and Folger's boyfriend, Wojciech Frykowski, a Polish writer. They watched movies, talked about the baby, and lingered past midnight. It was the last night any of them would see. At the same time, a man named Charles Manson was giving an order. He sent 4 of his followers, Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian, to go to that house where the music people used to live and destroy everyone in it. Manson had visited Cielo Drive before, when it was rented by record producer Terry Melcher, the man who had rejected Manson's dreams of becoming a rock star. Manson's rejection turned to rage. He wanted revenge. And Sharon's house, though no longer Melcher's, became the stage for his message. Just after midnight, the killers arrived. They cut the phone lines, climbed the fence, and crept toward the house. The first victim was Stephen Parent, and one 8-year-old boy visiting the caretaker. Tex Watson shot him 4 times in his car. Then they entered the main house. Inside, the nightmare began. The attack was savage, ritualistic, fueled by madness. The victims pleaded for their lives. Jay Sebring tried to shield Sharon, but he was shot and stabbed. Frykowski fought back, crawling across the floor before being bludgeoned to death. Abigail Folger ran for the lawn but was chased and stabbed 28 times. Sharon, 8 months pregnant, begged for the life of her baby. She cried, "Please let me have my baby." Susan Atkins later claimed, she told her, "Look, bitch, I have no mercy for you." By 12:30 a.m., it was over. Sharon Tate and her friends were dead. The killers smeared their victims' blood on the walls and wrote one word: pig. The next morning, the headlines screamed. Hollywood froze. No one could comprehend the brutality. Sharon's mother collapsed when she heard the news. Roman Polanski, still in London, returned to find his home turned into a crime scene. "I can't describe what I saw," he said later. "It was the end of everything." The murders shattered the illusion of safety that had defined Los Angeles. Doors were locked, guards hired, guns bought. The peace and love generation realized that evil didn't need a reason, it could walk barefoot and smile. For months, no one knew who was responsible. Theories ran wild: satanic cults, drug deals gone wrong, jealous lovers. Hollywood turned on itself. Sharon's friends were questioned, her husband accused, her name dragged through tabloids that feasted on the horror. It wasn't until later that the truth came out: the Manson family, a group of lost youth manipulated by a man who promised them meaning. They killed for a man who thought murder could start a revolution. But the deeper truth, the one Hollywood didn't want to face, was that Sharon's death was more than a crime. It was a mirror. It reflected the sickness beneath the city's surface. Fame without soul, beauty without protection, dreams without reality. Sharon Tate became the face of a generation's loss of innocence. She represented everything the 1,960 seconds promised and everything it failed to keep. When the killers were finally caught, the world saw faces that didn't seem capable of such horror. They were young, smiling, singing, barefoot. Charles Manson, a failed musician and self-proclaimed prophet, sat in the courtroom like a showman, carving an X into his forehead to erase his identity. His followers, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, Leslie Van Houten, giggled through testimony about stabbing and torture, like children proud of their father's approval. It was theater macabre, mesmerizing, and deeply disturbing. The Manson trial wasn't just about murder. It was about America realizing that evil didn't always wear a monster's face. Sometimes it wore flowers in its hair. When prosecutors asked why they killed, the answers were chilling. Manson claimed he was starting a revolution, helter-skelter, he called it. a prophecy of racial war inspired by twisted interpretations of Beatles lyrics. But the truth was simpler and crueler. It was revenge. The house on Cielo Drive had once belonged to Terry Melcher, the record producer who rejected Manson's dreams of fame. He sent his followers there to kill whoever was inside, not because they had wronged him, but because they symbolized everything he couldn't have: success, youth, beauty, and belonging. Sharon Tate, kind, generous, radiant, became the innocent vessel of that hate. As the trial unfolded, details of that night surfaced: every wound, every word, every plea. Journalists devoured it. Hollywood turned it into legend. The Tate LaBianca murders became a brand, the end of the 60 seconds. But behind every gruesome headline was a young woman who loved life, who baked for her friends, who wrote letters to her unborn son. Her mother said, "People talk about the murders, but they forget about Sharon." Roman Polanski was never the same. In his memoir, he wrote, "I lost my love, my child, my future." He was accused of being cold, but those who knew him said he was simply empty. He lived surrounded by guilt, not just because of what happened, but because the world turned Sharon's death into mythology instead of mourning. The Manson family became a media spectacle, their faces on magazine covers, their chants replayed on television. America was horrified but couldn't look away. For years, young fans sent them love letters in prison. Manson himself became a pop culture figure, proof that in a world obsessed with fame, even evil could be famous. Meanwhile, Sharon's mother, Doris Tate, became the quiet force Hollywood didn't expect. Refusing to let her daughter be defined by her death, she spent decades fighting for victims' rights, ensuring that parole hearings for the killers would never pass unnoticed. She turned grief into activism, pain into purpose, a legacy Sharon herself would have been proud of. But something changed in Hollywood after Sharon's death. The parties stopped feeling safe. The mansions felt haunted. Stars who once left their doors open now lived behind gates and guards. The summer of love curdled into the decade of fear. Even decades later, people would say, that's when the dream died. Sharon Tate's murder wasn't just a crime. It was a warning that fame attracts not only admiration, but darkness. That beauty can become a curse in a city built on desire. And perhaps the cruelest truth of all, her killers didn't just take her life. They stole the future she never got to live, the child she never got to hold, the peace she never got to see. From this channel's perspective, Sharon Tate's story is not just about the horror of her death. It's about the illusion of safety in a world built on dreams. Hollywood sold the 1,960 seconds as an age of peace, beauty, and artistic freedom. But Sharon's death exposed the truth. Beneath the glitter, Los Angeles was a city built on obsession, exploitation, and the dangerous hunger to belong. Sharon Tate was the embodiment of everything Hollywood claimed to love: youth, innocence, purity. But that same innocence was what made her vulnerable. She wasn't hardened, political, or paranoid like many of her peers. She believed the world was good. She believed that fame could coexist with kindness. In that sense, Sharon wasn't just a victim of the Manson family. She was a victim of Hollywood's most seductive lie, that beauty can protect you. Her murder became the dividing line between two eras. Before August 1969, Hollywood was still naive enough to believe that art could heal the world. After that night, everything changed. Fear replaced freedom. The gates went up. Security guards appeared. The golden dream was over. The truth is that Sharon's death wasn't random. Charles Manson didn't know her, but he understood the system that had built her: the power of image, the way people worship celebrities like gods. His followers didn't just kill people. They tried to kill an idea. They wanted to destroy what Sharon represented: beauty, hope, abundance. And yet, in death, she became something Manson could never control: a symbol of lost innocence that outlived him. Her name became a whisper in Hollywood, a reminder that behind every beautiful image lies something fragile, something mortal. It's easy to see Sharon as a tragedy, a pregnant woman, a starlet taken too soon. But maybe her story reveals something more profound: that fame, like fire, can warm or consume, and that sometimes the most innocent people burn brightest before the world turns dark. When you look at Sharon Tate now, her smile in old photos, her joy, her radiance, you realize that she wasn't just a victim, she was a mirror, a reflection of what Hollywood once was and what it lost forever. And maybe that's why her story still haunts us. Because deep down, we know that the same forces that destroyed her: obsession, power, the thirst for attention, are still here, only dressed in new clothes. Sharon's death wasn't just the end of an era, it was a warning, and the world is still trying to understand what it means. There's a photograph Sharon Tate sitting in a sunlit garden, her hair golden, her hands resting on her belly, a quiet smile softening her face. She was 8 months pregnant, waiting for her son, dreaming about the future. It's one of the last pictures ever taken of her. The light seems almost unreal, like it knew it was capturing something the world was about to lose. Sharon once said, "There's nothing you can play on stage or screen that isn't already inside you." Maybe that's why she glowed the way she did. She carried gentleness inside her. It wasn't performance, it was presence. And that's what makes her story hurt, because you can still feel her warmth, even now, through film reels and faded photographs. Decades later, people still visit her grave. Strangers leave flowers, notes, small tokens of love, not because they remember her movies, but because they remember what she represented: innocence that never got to grow old. She became the eternal face of the 1960 seconds, a time when everything felt possible, right before it wasn't. Hollywood tried to move on. The houses changed, the parties resumed, and new stars took her place. But the city never forgot her. Every story about the end of the dream begins with her name. She became the line between before and after, between love and fear, light and shadow. Sharon Tate never lived to see her child, never grew old, never got to reinvent herself. But maybe that's why her image feels eternal. She remains frozen in that moment of grace, the last breath of innocence before the world turned cold. Some say the dream died with her. Others believe the light she left behind never went out. It just learned to live among the ghosts of Hollywood. Some stories were never meant to be known. But now,